Hello everybody and welcome to a new edition of Eco Africa, the environment show brought to you by NTV in Uganda, Germany's DW and Channels TV right here in Nigeria. I'm Chris Alems and here's my co-host Sandra in Uganda.
Hi Chris. Hello everybody. It is good to have you back. We've got some exciting reports about environmental protection and sustainability coming up. Here is a quick look at some of the topics that we'll be exploring today. What makes the Somone Lagoon in Senegal such a unique biotope? Why the number of cargo e-bikes on the streets of Germany is set to grow? And how a fungal weapon should fight invasive plants in Kenya.
Our first report takes us to Africa's west coast. Scientists say that every year Ghana generates a staggering 1.1 million tons of plastic waste, but only 5% of that is collected and recycled. That's a pretty shocking figure. But there is hope. A number of grassroots organizations are coming together to see how they can make a difference. Let's take a look.
Beach cleanups can be back-breaking work, seemingly endless and futile. But this is a mission with a difference. These volunteers on Pram Pram Beach, east of Ghana's capital Accra, are not just collecting all the waste. This group, called Plastic Punch, have a plan. They're sorting, measuring and cataloguing all the items as a weapon to fight back against the scourge. Richmond Kennedy Kwaku organizes these cleanups, often with volunteers from nearby communities.
So when volunteers come around, community members stick to shoes. If you are picking shoes, if you are picking plastics, you pick only plastics. If you are picking toothpaste, you pick only toothpaste. This way we are able to separate the recyclables from the non-recyclables, because we want to demonstrate to the community that there can be some value from these things rather than finding them in our waterways.
Waterways such as Accra's Somone Lagoon have been turned into aquatic waste dumps, with only a tiny fraction of the city's trash being properly collected and recycled. Besides poisoning the land, the debris is flushed into the ocean, breaking down into microplastics, getting into the food chain and destroying aquatic ecosystems. And it's from places like Somone Lagoon that a good deal of the trash washes down to Pram Pram Beach, where Plastic Punch is working. They see their data collection, a form of citizen science, as a way out of the mess.
We are aware that beach cleanups alone are not a solution to the plastic pollution menace, because just after the next high tide, there will be more trash coming in. However, it serves as a very good activity to collect relevant data. And what we are concentrating on today is to understand what the pollutants are, what is polluting, and also which brands, which companies are polluting. By collecting this data, we are able to understand by analyzing what the sources of these pollutants could be. When we understand where these sources could be, and that is where we are going to attack or direct our awareness actions and also solution finding efforts.
Armed with the data, Kwaku's team can begin the crucial next phase, helping local authorities to understand the waste flows and figure out how to stop it ending up in the ocean.
So with their data, we are able to tell where the waste is coming from and the type of waste that is coming into the shore, and then the ones that are recyclable and then the ones that are non-recyclable. So this informed us as the assembly how to plan for the management of the waste.
The citizen scientists are also a key part of a much bigger puzzle. Ocean conservation is one of the United Nations' 17 Sustainable Development Goals, but efforts to combat marine plastic pollution have been held back by a lack of reliable data. Pram Pram Beach in Ghana is a microcosm of a worldwide problem. It's been estimated that we have dumped up to 200 million tons of trash into the sea, most of it indestructible plastic, and some estimates say the rate of increase could triple in the coming decade. The UN Environment Programme says the only solution is to fundamentally change how we use plastic. Thanks to groups like Plastic Punch, Ghana became the first country to monitor plastic debris density according to UN guidelines. The data is loaded onto a UN platform containing the world's largest citizen science dataset on marine litter. Officials of Ghana's Statistical Service said the effort is very useful.
They are not only cleaning the beach, they are also compiling data that would let policymakers appreciate the value of their activity, one. Two, also appreciate what we are doing to ourselves in terms of littering the beaches to the extent that, one, it doesn't encourage tourism. Two, it affects aquatic life.
Being able to present pristine beaches is of course also vital to Ghana's billion-dollar tourist sector. Meanwhile, for citizen scientists like Richmond Kennedy Kwaku, the hard work has only just begun. He wants to see their data turned into meaningful change.
Now that we understand the problem, to solve it, we need solutions, we need political will, we need investment into waste management system, into alternative packaging. We need a lot of awareness. We are listening to the science, we are listening to the ocean, and what the results are giving us only makes sense, and we need to act now and fast.
These citizen scientists have cleaned the stretch of Pram Pram Beach, and the trash data has been logged. Their hope is that if we all really understand what happens to the plastic we use and discard, then we can truly begin to free the oceans of our trash again.
Well, it seems pretty clear that shifting to cleaner fuel is key to tackling pollution. But how easy is it to make the switch? One neighborhood in London has demonstrated that a solid dose of community spirit really helps.
That is right, Chris. Now, local residents proved that with vision and determination, it is possible to move away from traditional energy sources and in a way that benefits a lot of households at once.
The new solar panels are finally here, and soon this street will be producing its very own power. Residents in East London's Lynmouth Road spent more than 2 years working for this moment and convincing their neighbours to get on board. Today, their dream is becoming reality.
The pressure of saying something's going to happen and having like power station posters up in windows. So this first moment of seeing it come to reality, yeah, it's kind of a relief. It's joyful.
We wanted the whole street to basically get the solar panels. That was our goal. We soon realised that wasn't going to happen, like it was going to be really difficult actually to even persuade anyone at first.
Artists Hilary Powell and Dan Edelstein came up with the idea. Originally they'd hoped to get the entire street linked into a grid, but some of the roofs aren't suited to solar panels, and some neighbours haven't yet warmed up to the idea. 25 households on Lynmouth Road are on board, however.
I think across Britain there are millions and millions of people who want to solve and put money into the climate crisis. If you can offer a direct action solution for it, which is what we've kind of created here, then it kind of floats quite well with the general public.
Given the economic crisis in the country, not everyone could afford to sign up. That's why the two artists launched a fundraising campaign that raised over £100,000. They even spent several weeks during the winter living on their roof and filmed it as a crowdfunder.
We wanted to make this street as the locus of a story, but also as a kind of experiment, prototype, test, pilot thing that could help other streets kind of move quickly to act. And that's taken lots of, ideas and failed attempts to find a model that would work.
The activists say the government should support innovative ecological projects like theirs to help tackle the climate crisis.
We need large pots of money which make it really absurdly easy for people to get match funding or to get properly subsidised to turn their buildings, their houses or their businesses into power stations. Does anyone know where Tom is at the moment, by the way?
Hilary Powell and Dan Edelstein are filming the installation of the solar panels. The first step on the path to a solar road. Their neighbour Angela hopes the solar panels will help slash her energy bills.
panels on the roof is going to be much better for the planet if they can keep going and achieving. And once people see this happening, you know, it's only a start. It is really only a start. And of course, cheaper bills.
For now, these solar-powered homes are still a rarity here. Their partner, a major British energy company, says they're pioneers.
Here in the UK, we've got pretty much like one of the most outdated grid systems. So it's really reliant on fossil fuels. So at peak times, let's say 6 o'clock when people come home and they want to cook their dinners, there's about a few hundred different generators that are required by the grid to dial up that demand. What that does is it creates this horrible kind of pollution, and of course it's really expensive.
On sunny days, London's solar pioneers can even produce surplus energy that can be fed into the grid.
Instead of going for that fossil fuel network, what we're championing is decentralising that grid, and instead having thousands of different renewable energy assets that themselves control the grid and create that flexibility.
From now on, meals like this will be cooked with power that comes straight from their own roof.
When the rest of the street see the first 10, 20 houses getting the solar panels, and they see that, you know, that it's a viable idea and that it's not harebrained and just a couple of artists coming up with a totally pie-in-the-sky idea, hopefully more people will want to do it. And then we're also hoping that we can save money overall by doing bulk buying and stuff like that, so that other streets can also get involved.
Hilary Powell and Dan Edelstein hope this will be just the beginning. Their dream is power to the people, everywhere in the city.
What an inspiring initiative. For our next report, we are staying in Europe but heading over to Germany, where online shopping is a booming market. That means a lot of delivery traffic, but in Munich, more and more parcels are now being delivered by e-bike. This is why the city has set up a logistics hub for cargo bikes. On this week's Doing a Beat, we find out how it is going.
Electric cargo bikes can transport as much as a small truck. They're not only a flexible and emission-free means of transport, they're often actually faster than the delivery trucks that clog up many streets in downtown Munich.
Given the amount of commercial traffic and the fact that we see a lot of potential in a switch to sustainable electric cargo bikes, we're making this a key factor in our overall mobility strategy.
5 companies have warehouses in the cargo bike logistics hub. They transport deliveries to private individuals and businesses. One of the companies, Intercap, provides last-mile delivery. It says the cargo bikes work well.
We have 30 stops,
that's manageable. Drivers are paid by the hour. It's not like other large delivery companies where there are 120 parcels and it's almost impossible to get it all done in a day. Our couriers can actually enjoy the journey.
Replacing trucks with huge cargo bikes has major environmental benefits. Initial estimates suggest the 5 delivery companies alone could save 6 tons of CO2 per year. And this is just the first step of an initiative that goes beyond Munich.
Many cities have similar projects. We're all still figuring it out. I think it's important that we share our experience and learn the right lessons from it. So we're in discussion with other cities. We'll also work together to consolidate our projects.
Back to Africa now, and a very different topic. Plant health. All too often, chemicals are used to get rid of diseases and improve yields. But these can badly damage the environment. There are alternatives. On the edge of Kenya's only surviving tropical rainforest, a fungal weapon against weeds is being developed in a state-of-the-art laboratory. Take a look.
These flowers grow well in Kenya, too well in fact. Striga or purple witchweed might be pretty, but it's devastating to crops. It flourishes in dry soil and poses a serious threat to harvests, as agronomist Dorcas Kemboi explains.
It's a parasitic weed, and it can cause damage to up to 100% in the farm. As you can see, this maize, it is stunted. By the time you are seeing a striga emerging, the destruction is already done because striga seed is underground.
The parasitic plant attaches itself to the roots of crops and then extracts nutrients from them at their expense. They start to wilt while the weed flourishes. Margaret Kisa knows the problem all too well. Witchweed regularly decimates her maize and millet fields.
We've been struggling with the problem of witchweed for many years. We plant crops, but the yields are no good. We try to stop it spreading by sweeping up debris and animal waste and distributing it in the fields, but it doesn't make any difference. Last season I planted a whole acre. But from that, I only harvested 1 bag of maize. That doesn't even leave enough for me to replant as seed.
But US and Kenyan scientists have identified a fungus that kills the parasite. It's highly effective, even in tiny amounts, such as might fit on a toothpick. This discovery led to the Toothpick Project. Dorcas Kemboi manages the project's toothpick company. Her team of scientists produce the fungus that kills the striga plant.
Currently, we're doing a research on the biocontrol for striga weed using Fusarium oxysporum. This fungus was isolated from a wilting striga weed, and it was grown to make the biocontrol solution known as Kichawikil. What we do in this lab is multiply the fungus as much as we can so that it can quantify to a mass that can serve the farmers in great capacities.
For the last 5 years, Kemboi has travelled to villages in Western Kenya to introduce farmers to the product. It costs about €30 to treat a 1-acre field. Until now, farmers have been uprooting the destructive plant to prevent its seeds from spreading further, because once they're in the soil, they stay there for years. Chemical pesticides haven't proved effective, and farmers are left with failed harvests. That's why the Toothpick Project is supported by a number of NGOs focused on food security.
There is the effect of climate change. The earth is warming, the soils are warming, and we are seeing striga also moving even to some wetter zones and to also some colder regions. If that is experienced in our high production areas, then it means the food insecurity also is it becomes much more.
Kenya isn't the only country with a striga problem. According to the UN, 14 African nations are infested with the weed. This makes the project all the more important. If successful, it could be introduced in other countries too. So Dorcas Kemboi is working with 80 farmers to help produce more fungal inoculum.
The Kichawikil that can be produced at our laboratory is not enough to serve farmers across the 7 counties we're operating in. So that is the reason why we're engaging village inoculum producers at the village level who can help us prepare the final product.
Production itself is relatively straightforward. The fungus just needs to grow. 20 kilos of rice are cooked and a small amount of fungus is added, then left for 3 to 5 days to incubate. The resulting 40 kilos of fungus-enriched rice are enough for 1 acre of cropland. The researchers found that farmers needed to treat their fields for 2 years. That's 4 crop sowings. That was enough to banish the striga and restore crop yields. For smallholders especially, it's a relatively easy remedy that the farmers can apply for themselves.
And we end the program where we began, the west coast of Africa. In winter, migratory birds flock to Senegal and Mauritania, and the areas where they collect are now protected.
We visited the Lagoon de Somone in Senegal, an area of natural beauty and a bird conservation area to see what the protection measures have achieved so far.
The mangrove forests of the Somone Nature Reserve are a habitat for a vast array of species. The lagoon's mix of fresh and salt water creates a brackish environment and a rich ecosystem that's home to herons, cormorants, and birds of prey. It's a natural paradise. But local fishermen are none too happy. If we're not allowed to fish in the lagoon, then we don't really have any other options available. Some fishermen have decided to go out to sea instead. Sometimes they catch something, but there's nowhere near as many fish as in the nature reserve, so it's hard for us now. Ibrahim Fai lives in one of the 3 villages on the edge of the nature reserve. During October and November, they're not allowed to fish here, so the fish spawn and the lagoon can recover. So-called eco-guards make sure the rules are obeyed. They also ensure there are enough resting places for the area's main bird species, such as perches for ospreys. A major problem is that more and more people have settled around the lagoon. The lagoon used to have a lot of mangrove forests, but mangrove wood is in huge demand. It's often thought of as firewood, but the people here mainly use it for construction because they know it's much more termite resistant than any other woods. So there is a lot of deforestation. And as the mangroves disappeared, the fish populations declined too. The eco-guards have been working here for 10 years. They're employed by the municipality, which manages the lagoon. It provides locals with a livelihood. A growing number of fishermen have started farming oysters to compensate for the period when they're not allowed to fish. Tourism has also developed, with more and more visitors discovering the lagoon's spectacular biodiversity. It's especially popular with birdwatchers. These tourists are lucky enough to spot an osprey. Around 2,500 tourists visit every month, and locals work as guides. The visitors help fund the nature reserve and also boost the locals' income. 20% of the revenue goes to the women who do reforestation work. Then the 2 communities that live around the lagoon get 10% each. Another 20% goes to the eco-guards. There are 13 of them. They come from the villages to help us. Organizations such as BirdLife International are also active in the nature reserve. The lagoon is facing a range of environmental challenges. On the banks of the lagoon, the main threats, which are climate change related, are erosion and silting. Locals can see what's happening. We conducted studies and asked them what they've observed. Especially the older people who can compare with what it was like when they were younger. They say they've noticed the soil has become sandier and has a higher salt content. The organization's studies also made it clear that the locals were well aware what caused these problems. When we asked them what solutions they would recommend, what practices they've noticed that seem to accelerate the problems and that should therefore be stopped, they themselves said that it's due to intensive fishing and harvesting shellfish in ways that damage the mangroves. Locals traditionally harvested mussels and oysters from the shorelines and mangroves, damaging them in the process. Today, the oysters are cultivated just above the waterline, so the mangroves remain intact. Wildlife is flourishing in the Somone Lagoon, but for these positive developments to continue, it's vital that the lagoon remains a protected area.
The time has flown by. I'm afraid we've come to the end of our show for this week. We hope you enjoyed the program. Before I say goodbye, I'd like to wish you all a happy holiday. Enjoy the time with family and friends. See you next time.
Same here, Chris. Merry Christmas and a happy 2024. Thank you so much for the active engagement with the program. We hope to see you soon. For now, do take care and see you soon.